Did you ever have an experience where something happens by accident and you discover something that changes your life? I mean, it truly changes your life. So the beginning of the summer, I was going to Ohio to visit my son and his family, and I stopped to stay overnight in Akron, Ohio, which, Akron, Ohio. But Akron, Ohio is where the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous began. And so it is a very strong spiritual center. So I went to a famous place in Akron. It's Dr. Bob's house. He's one of the co-founders. And I'm looking through a bookstore, and there's all kinds of New Thought books there. And I read it, I read this, I read Emmett Fox, I read all of them. And then I'm like, yeah. So then I find this little red book. It is so small, I thought, what is this little red book, which says the greatest thing in the world? Well, now, being a curious person, I want to know what's the greatest thing in the world, right? So I start reading the back, and it says that this person, Dr. Bob, who is one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, told a woman who was having a hard time that if she would read this book every day for 30 days, her life would change. I'm thinking, really? 30 days? I've been working on this for 34 years. I'm still waiting for all these changes. So I thought, I'm going to get this book. It's little, it's cheap, and I want to find out what is in this book that would change someone's life in 30 days. So I started reading this book every day for 30 days. And I couldn't get enough of it. And because the book is based on Corinthians, and if you've ever been to a wedding, especially a Christian wedding, you know about though I speak with tongues, and that whole thing about love suffereth long and is kind, and it goes on and on. And it was written by Paul. Now, I have to tell you, I am not a fan of Paul. I've never met the guy, but he's just not someone I would want to meet. I don't understand how he hung around with Jesus, because he seems very different. Paul is not known for being a nice guy, but he wrote that 7 Corinthians at a time when he was a little bit older. And so I started reading this book, and he breaks that poem down into 3 sections. One is love analyzed, love defined, and love defended. And he goes in and he talks about what is the one thing in the world. You have your life before you, and you only have one time to live it. What is the noblest object of desire, the supreme gift that you would covet? So some people would say health, some people may say faith, some people will say love, and he goes on to say it is love. And then he goes on to explain it. But what's interesting is, what is love? There's lots of songs about love. We talk about love. Everyone, I love you, I love. But what is love? And so what he talks about is the fact that trying to describe what love is similar to trying to explain what light is. If someone said to you, what is light? Well, you could say it's the absence of darkness, but that really doesn't say what it is. And so science has done this thing where they have something that they pass light through, and it breaks light up into its parts, all the colors of the rainbow, which is what makes up no color, which is light. And so what this author does is he takes love and he puts it through a similar thing, and he breaks it up into 9 things. Now, what he's saying is, to have love, to be love, to express love, we have to have these 9 things. And the secret to this book is the fact that what you're supposed to do is practice these 9 things. So they're kindness and patience and generosity and humility and a whole list of things. And I'm not going to go into them all, because actually I did do a discussion class online about this, and I'm thinking about doing one here because this book is unbelievable. So, love is kindness. You know, we hear that all the time. And he talks about the fact that love is kindness is love in action. When we're kind, we're doing action. And the fact that if you look at Jesus' life, he did a lot of kind things. He was always doing kind things. And also that love is patience. And we all know that sometimes patience is easy and sometimes patience is not easy. And if you want to find out when patience is not easy, pray for patience. I guarantee if you pray for patience, anything that could come into your life that will let you practice patience will come into your life. And then he talks about love is humility. And the thing is that these things come into our life as an opportunity for us to practice them. Because life is a school. We come here to learn. And we're given all these opportunities. So all these things that we're supposed to be practicing in order to be loved, we're given opportunities to practice. Patience, kindness, humility, courtesy, gentleness. All these things, we constantly have these ways of practicing them. What's interesting is the hardest thing to get, and the one where most people fail at, is a temper, losing your temper. He compares losing your temper to things as bad as drunkenness, as like misuse, everything, because he says that losing our temper is the indication of people who are often virtuous, but they just have this one thing, they lose their temper. Now, you might be on 15, driving down, trying to get from Orange to Norwalk, and traffic is bad, and someone cuts you off, and often the first reaction is not nice. We lose our temper. Now, we could have just prayed and meditated all morning long, but that person crosses our path and does something we don't like, and all of a sudden, all that prayer and meditation is out the window. And so I understood that. So for 30 days, I read this book. Now, for me, if something doesn't work in my life, it doesn't work. So as some of you know, I went to Paris. And I was there supposed to be there for 10 days. I was there for 2 weeks. I had been reading this book. I had been really aware of this and these 9 things, trying to bring them into my life, whatever. And I had things happen to me in Paris that I cannot explain other than the fact that this little book, made some kind of change. So I'm in the Louvre. How many of you have been to Paris? If you've been to the Louvre, you know it's crazy. There's a lot of people, especially when you go at a time of year when it's busy. And the big attraction is the Mona Lisa. Everybody wants to see the Mona Lisa. So crowds of people are trying to get in front of the Mona Lisa to take a picture. Now, 5 years ago, I was in Paris. And back then what they did is they had a line, and you stood on this line, and you walked in front of the Mona Lisa behind a rope, and you got to see it for like 5 minutes. And then you had to keep moving because someone else was behind you. So I get to the Mona Lisa, and my friend is with me, and there's all these people, and they're pushing to get up front as close to the rope as possible to take a picture of the Mona Lisa. And I'm thinking, well, where's the line? 5 years ago, there was a line. And so I went up to this guard who was standing right at the front. I do not speak French. So I would like to, in English, which I'm not sure he understood everything, I said to him, where's the line? And he says to me, here. And he opens up the rope and he lets me in right in front of the Mona Lisa. Now, everybody is standing behind a rope behind me, wondering who the hell this person is. My friend says, I'm with her, and he opens up the rope, And she walks in. Now, another guard comes up and says, would you like me to take your picture? I'm like, yeah, because no one's going to believe this. So they take a picture. Now, I mean, we're like in awe. We cannot believe it. I posted on Facebook, I said, Suanne and I and Mona hanging out together. And because I couldn't believe it. And it was so moving that when we finally were done hanging out with Mona, because no one pushed us away, and we went into another room, my friend just started crying because she had never even seen the painting before, and the fact that we were so close. So I'm like, wow, I don't even speak French, and this guy let me in. This book is really good. So because I don't always believe when something happens once to me, continually things kept happening. One time we were taking the train to Brussels, and we wound up somehow in the train station on England property. The guy could not believe we were up there. We did not have a ticket for London. We went through everything, and he's like, how did you get here? And we're saying, we don't know. We were just following people, and we're showing our ID, and they're letting, and we said, okay, we're going to leave. He says, you cannot leave unless you have an escort. You know, you're not supposed to be here. And he kept saying, how did we get here? And I'm like, I don't know how I got here, but everyone seemed to let us in. So we're there. I'm supposed to be there 10 days. And I get an email that I was supposed to speak last Sunday, and would I switch and speak this Sunday? I thought, okay, I'll speak this Sunday. And so that was the first thing that happens. Then the next day, I get a call from Delta Airlines, where my ticket was. Your plane has been delayed, and we will change your flight to any flight you want, and it won't cost you anything. Now I'm thinking, that's really nice, but the person whose apartment we were staying in was coming in the next day, so we had to get out. The same day, I get an email from him. His wife had broken both her legs, and they weren't coming. I said, can I stay longer? And he was like, you can stay as long as you want. So now I'm not speaking that Sunday. My plane has been changed so I don't have to pay. I can stay as long as I want in the apartment. My friend had to get back home. I waved her goodbye. I was staying in Paris because I got to spend 4 days by myself in Paris, which I love. I don't know how everything like that happened, and it happened in such a short time. So I'm wondering, like, how did this happen? You know, people talk about Paris and the French not being. I'm telling you, every place we went, everything we did, people were so nice to us. And somehow things happened that I can't even explain. I mean, we don't have enough time because we'll be here all night. But what I know is that I believe it has something to do with this book. I really do. I believe that if you read about love and being love, which is one thing to say, oh, I'm loving this world, but being patient and kind and gentle and courteous and humble and of good temper and all this kind of stuff, 9 things, and you practice them, because we can't necessarily practice being love, but we can practice those qualities that we cannot help but be love. And what do we know in unity? That like attracts like, right? If we are love, we attract love. If we are kindness, we attract kindness. If we are gentleness, we attract gentleness. We bring to us whatever we are in this world. And so when life happens to us and we don't like it, which sometimes life happens and we don't like it, we have to ask ourselves, what in me is bringing this? Now, I don't bring hurricanes to me. I don't bring things like that. But how I react to what life brings me is all about where I am in my spiritual life. Things happen in this world. People die. People get sick. People break their foot. Things like that happen. You know, hurricanes happen. all of that happens. We can't change that. But what we can change is how we are in this world, who we are in this world. And when we change that, our life changes and things happen and we can't figure out why. And it's all because we're living our life from within to without instead of living our life from without to within. So I invite you to take a moment and close your eyes. And I mentioned this before, but think of like one moment, one thing that happened in your life. Could be a small thing where someone was the epitome of love, was kind and patient and gentle and courteous. I can remember Christmas, which was the lowest point of my life, and some friends invited me to stay with them, and when I woke up in the morning, there was a stocking, and in it was a little wooden box for me. And that was so important at that time in my life that I will remember that little wooden box to the day that I die. And the love, the kindness, the patience, the humility, the love. We never forget those moments when we feel that love that is God working in and through some person. For love is the greatest thing. Even faith is not as great as love. For what faith does is it brings us to a closer consciousness with God. And when we have that close consciousness with God, what we experience, what we feel is love. And so we say, thank you, God, for the love that is always with us, within us, and as us. And for the opportunity to practice in this lifetime those qualities that shine through us as love. And for that, we are truly grateful. And we say thank you and amen.